Hello, and welcome back to the final installment of Always the Horizon by Murdoch, as read by Livid Productions. Chapter 12, The Return of the Aryan.
Wake up.
My eyes open to reveal Nihilism, wearing the mask of the little girl from the graveyard. She smiles sweetly at me.
You were sleeping again. Look, your friend has sunk even further. Yet you still remain exactly where you were. I must say, I am completely perplexed. Do you not know how long you've been at this, trying to break free from the muck? 3 days now. For 3 days, you have struggled like a wild beast. Surely you've dislocated your shoulder from how many times you've reached for that sacred weapon. In vain. What could compel a man to yearn for something so relentlessly that he knows he'll never grasp?
I turn towards you, Ryder, and see that you are now halfway submerged. I look back to the sacred weapon, and once again, I push myself forward. However, I am still caught in the swamp's embrace, as it ever reconstructs me into its own form. My blue-black veins and eyes shrouded in deep purple make clear the fact that I have begun to wither. I am slowly becoming the decay. Nihilism begins again.
Did you know that the parents of this little girl, upon finding out that she was slain by a Mohammedan ghoul, did not rally to your cause? In fact, they were resolutely against you, even after the death of their precious child. They would sooner spit on you, who wears a crimson cloak of a dead ideology, than they would the murderer of their offspring. You are hated everywhere you go by all variations of your kind. Rest now. You have ventured so far for nothing, really. Why waste your conscious hours fighting for a people that wish to extinguish themselves?
Suddenly I begin to sink. I close my eyes, lowering my head and arm. She is right. Nihilism whispers in my ear.
Of course I am right.
My eyes reopen. I gnash my teeth, and once again frantically lunge forward. She sighs, leaning back.
It's a pity, really. I don't have many people come this far into my domain, and fewer still stay afloat long enough to carry on a good conversation. You've managed to remain above the surface longer than any other man I've known, and yet you won't even give me more than a few words. Truly, it can be quite lonely here in the abyss, but I suppose silence is most befitting us. We, the shadows who dwell in the swamp of sadness. Perhaps dialogue is overrated. Indeed, mankind's entire history is but a murmuring into the void. Whispers in a sea of nothing.
My hand still reaches out for the sacred blade, but I am too far. To think we have come all this way only to drown in apathy before the altar of purpose. Please forgive me, Ryder. I begin to sink further into the muck. My hand remains outstretched when suddenly I see a moth gently flutter before and between my fingers. What are you doing out here, little moth? Have you traveled with us all this way? And please, forgive me too, for I have led you to a marsh that only knows sorrow. Why would such a pretty thing like yourself wish to wind up here, in the most dreaded of places, so far from your task, the chase of the flame? The flame, I mutter. My eyes refocus behind the dancing moth, past my free hand and the sacred sword, between the trees, and there, out on the horizon, I behold the glorious red sun. Somehow, its rays of light have found their way into this realm of shadows. Tears stream from my withered eyes as I whisper, "Thank you." I lower my head and weep. Suddenly I hear a melody crying out from the distance. The voice of a woman. Perhaps there are angels after all, and it is time for my spirit to depart this world, guided to heaven or hell by the will of Christ's emissary. No, it can't be, for this place was built over the grave of God and his angels. How could such beings tread near this place without ceasing to be entirely? I must be imagining things, yet there it is again, that melody. Only now there are many more women singing along. Slowly, as the voices draw nearer, I begin to make out the words. To be, to be, to be. I whisper out, to be. Nihilism looks to me and asks,
What did you say?
My eyes remain completely fixated on the immortal star as its light slips through my fingers. Suddenly I hear a chorus of men cry out, "Europe endless," followed by the women once again. To be, to be, to be. Nihilism approaches me and with a confused expression says,
Why do you look that way, as if you were beguiled by some great sight?
She looks out at the sun.
Is it that orb in the sky? A near-perfect sphere of hot plasma, powered by nuclear fusion reactors in its core. That's the thing that gives you purpose.
She begins to laugh. The chorus that had swayed back and forth from men to women finally converges as they cry out together. Endlessness, endlessness, endlessness. I don't know why, but I begin to sing along with them. Though this sacred clown may lack a songbird's voice, still, I too shall sing with them, for I see now, this is merely the song of the European continuum. Those old words and notes that had struggled in dissonance and immaturity for so long, now, finally, together, forming a grand harmony. What is this language that they speak? It is not of my own tongue, yet I know its meaning. Is this Russian or German? Is it Greek or Latin? Is it Proto-Indo-European? No. It is the future language, some distant tongue not yet born, which the European continuum will adopt in order to ensure survival. A new meme, forged from the desire to unify a concept and a people, one people with one ideology. To be. My whispers slowly become a shout as my arm remains stretched outward, formed into a Roman salute, hailing the red sun. I cry out once more, endlessness, endlessness, endlessness. Suddenly I begin to feel my legs moving, as if the swamp had lost its grip, and I was once again free to move towards my endeavor. Upon seeing my body begin to bulge, Nihilism calls out,
What are you singing? Don't you know notes are just vibrations in the air that bring about serotonin? Is this your requiem? Don't you know you're just romanticizing your end? You're just bacteria. There's no purpose to being. There's no purpose to being.
Then, all of a sudden, the swamp is saturated in a blinding light, like a flock of doves whose wings shimmer as the stars above, flying outward in all directions. A flood of endless light radiating from the sacred sword raised high above my head, at long last free from the old tree's stump, for buried in the light of that sacred weapon was the yearning, that deep impulse from the heart of being that sought the knowing. The same way that candlelight gives clarity to the dark room, so too the light of the sacred sword gave understanding as to this paramount task. It revealed to the Aryan the phenomenon of man. In the light, the real face of nihilism is revealed, a putrid, deformed hag. As the light beams across her skin, she begins to burn. She cries out, "Who are you?" I shout out to her in this accursed swamp. I am the last son of the West, and I have come to free the European continuum from your spell. In an instant, I bring the sword down on her, and before the blade can even reach her skin, she disintegrates into smoke and ash, lost to the four winds. The weapon continues to beam wildly as I wrap it up in a makeshift leather scabbard. My eyes, still slightly blinded by the light of the sacred sword, slowly regain focus. To my surprise, the swamp has been fundamentally changed. Where there were once thorns, there now lies only flowers, as if the whole swamp had disappeared, replaced by a cornucopia of sounds and colors. I see a squirrel as it darts past my foot, and the air is full of the buzzing of bees and the chirping of birdsong. I look back to you, Ryder, and see that you still live, albeit half buried in the dirt. Come, my old friend, for the chase of the sun awaits us. I pull you up out of the dry dirt, and we make our way back from whence we came. Suddenly I hear the sound of mumbling. To my delight, we are once more met with my old friend, the atheist. He struggles as he is buried in a bed of flowers, his mouth filled with various plants and clumps of moss. After he spits out the last bits of dirt, he speaks. "So I was wrong? There truly is an afterlife? Is this heaven or hell?" I smile as I reply to him. "It is neither heaven nor hell. I know it by no other name than being. Come, let us aid this being in its endeavor to know itself." I reach out my hand in order to help him. As he returns to his feet, the atheist looks left and right and then whispers, "What happened to this place? Where did the swamp go? And what of that dreadful hag Nihilism? Will she soon come back our way?" I embrace him with a smile. No, for today marks both the death of Nihilism and the return of the Aryan.